everybody, and welcome to Lattes on My Mind.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Felina. What are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Alexander the Great.
Oh.
Yeah.
So grab your lattes and join us for the journey.
Felina, I was looking at an article on the way over here. You know, like where Google like pops up like the random interviews, or like not random interviews, like random articles happening. They're like history, science, whatever. It's just like at the bottom of my phone in Chrome, it does that. I don't know if it does that for you.
I don't think it does that for me, but
it like suggests articles. So I scroll through them just to read the like titles, and one said, Saturn will lose its rings in just 6 months from now. And I was like, wait,
hold on. How does that work?
Okay. This is why I'm like, you have to read the full article, because they try to like get you in.
It's clickbait.
It's clickbait. But I was like, bro, its rings are disappearing. They're not. Apparently it like tilts like every 29 years a certain way, and like we can't see it from the Earth. But like,
so it's like it's gonna tilt, and then we won't be able to see it, and then it'll come back.
But it literally made it sound like, and I was actually having like a crisis for a second. Like I was in the 7 Brew drive-thru, and I was like, wait, what? Saturn's rings are disappearing? Because it's funny, because I've kind of been thinking about getting a tattoo. But it's funny because I want like stars.
Yeah.
And like I kind of was thinking about putting some planets, and like obviously one with rings like Saturn.
Yeah.
And so I was like, what if I got a tattoo and then Saturn's rings disappeared?
Then it would be fun. In memoriam.
But just to show you guys, you gotta read
the full article. You cannot just go based off of
I panicked.
Clickbait.
I panicked for a second.
It's okay though. It's okay because
like,
Saturn does have rings.
I know, and
it
cool.
had rings for centuries. So even if they did disappear, it would still be accurate.
It would still be accurate, but that would be so depressing.
That would be.
Because just think, like, if they can disappear, what else like from our Earth can disappear? You know, like what if the clouds start disappearing? Or I don't know. Like,
I don't think that's gonna happen.
You never know.
I think that even if the clouds do disappear, we won't know because chemtrails.
Because
and there it is.
No, I'm just kidding. Chemtrails, not so great.
Not
you know
so
what's great? Alexander.
And that's the segue. Are we getting into it?
We are. It's funny though, because I'm getting distracted already. Wes asked me, he has like an appointment today to go get his tires fixed.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to do it. Can you do it? And obviously I can't go do it. He knows that. I was like, no, I can't go do it. I have the podcast to record. He's like, well, can I go do the podcast and you go do the tires? I'm like, sure, if you know about Alexander the Great. And he's like, yeah, Alexander Hamilton. And I was like, no.
Wrong one. Wrong person.
He knew it wasn't that, but he was like, sure, Alexander Hamilton. I'm like, no.
No. We just have a Hamilton podcast.
Right, exactly. Well, we could.
Wes and I could totally have a Hamilton episode.
He wouldn't know anything about it.
That would be the beauty of it. I would basically be explaining the plot of Hamilton to him.
That would be pretty funny.
And he would be like, oh.
That would be pretty funny. Yeah. But what do you know about Alexander the Great, Felina?
I know that he's great.
Okay, so we're starting at base one.
His name is Alexander. And,
this is true.
And he is great.
This is true. Okay, so who he was. Let's talk about him. Okay, so you know nothing. Is this what you're telling me?
I know that I'm supposed to know something about him, and I'm sure I learned about him in high school.
You did, because he's importante.
But history is not my best subject, as we all know here. I hated it. And
I'm forcing you to do a podcast without it.
I don't enjoy it. I don't enjoy the way most people teach it.
Yeah. Well, because in school, anything like that is like, they don't do the fun stuff. It's always
they don't do the mummy nibbles.
Right.
They do the random boring, and then this person did this, and this was its political effects, and then they did this.
And this was their political effects.
And then a lot of people
died.
Did this, and then the Great Depression, and then Holocaust.
That's
what it is.
That's what Felina heard.
That's an average history. Oh, and then maps.
I have some maps for you today.
Oh God,
okay,
no.
See, this is why I have to be like, but it's to help like picture it. Like it's not to like be like, Felina, fill in this, because I know obviously
The fill in the blanks.
The fill in the blanks, yeah. Those are hard in general.
I'm gonna have a panic attack looking at that map.
But I just think it's funny because like I'll be reading it and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is also interesting. But I know other people don't, so I'm trying to get like, I have a lot of facts, but I'm trying to like, okay, let's say the interesting stuff and not be like the Battle of Guatemala and the Battle of
and then this battle and this battle took place, and the importance of this battle was guns, and the importance of this battle was bullets.
Right.
And it's like, what?
But I am gonna have some of this, so bear with me. Okay.
Okay.
Because Alexander was very important. He was born in 356 BC. Now remember what BC is.
Before Christ.
Very good. So we're talking about, 356 years counting down to the year of Christ. This child is born on July 20th or 21st. We don't know. So sometime
July
in July.
21st is a birthday of a relative of mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, then we'll say that's what Alexander's is.
Okay.
His full title is Alexander III of Macedon. So he was born in a place called Macedonia.
Wow, I know that name.
Perhaps you've heard of it.
Yes.
It is on the Greek peninsula. So, of course, I said I was going to show you maps just so you can get context. Here it is during his father's lifetime. So we're up here. This is Greece, okay?
Uh-huh.
So this is kind of where he's born. Now, I was a little confused because I didn't know if like Macedonia is like its own thing, but it is like a Greek country. It's not like a city state, but it's the Greek and Roman, as you know, like city states and political realms is confusing.
As I know,
because there's like the Roman Empire and the Roman like what's the other one? There's the Empire, there's the like Republic, like there's all different time periods, so I get a little confused. But for Greek, this is different because it's Greece, obviously, but it still has like time periods, so it can be confusing. So we're not even to Christ yet. We're 300 years before Christ.
Wow.
So just picture that. So very long time ago.
Christ wasn't even born yet.
Nope.
Mary wasn't even born yet.
Mary, what? Nope. I don't even know.
Wow.
Like, I wonder who wow, we really.
We're so
I'm so
sidetracked.
distracted. I wonder like who in Jesus's line was living during the time of Alexander the Great. I actually don't know that.
I don't know.
Because you know how it like traces their history, because like the Jewish people were really good about keeping records. So I'm sure like one of them was living during this time.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, actually, that's, like, only, like, 3 lifetimes if you live to 100, I guess.
Which they did.
They did then, yeah. So he is known for conquering the majority of the known world at the time, okay?
Okay.
So he's a big guy. He's a big figure. He's important.
He's a conqueror. And that's why he was great. Yes. Wasn't he not actually great as a person?
Well... Yeah.
I mean, he was horrible, basically, is what that means.
But I am so fascinated with Alexander the Great. So when I say that I love Alexander the Great, I want people to know that I just love learning about him, because like he is kind of like sketch and rash.
You're not gonna
in ways
morally follow everything he did.
No, don't do it, guys. He was obviously like a great military leader, which we'll talk about. He was very like skilled in battle and like all that stuff. So he was like heroic in ways with his army, but then he was like also like, you know how the Greek and Romans like rulers were. Bad stuff. So his dad, Philip II of Macedon, that's his dad, and his mom, Olympias, the fourth wife of Philip.
Okay.
Now, Philip apparently had 7 wives, and apparently this is like cool, chill in Macedonian culture for kings.
Well, yeah, it was
kings.
Yeah.
Because procreation.
Because royalty, you have a royal line, you have more chances. Like if your first wife doesn't give you a son, you have a second wife, they can give you a son, and then if that son, anything happens to that son, your fourth wife gave you another son.
Right, so we're good. We're chill.
Like, yeah.
Don't worry. The next one can get it.
Yeah. It's okay.
Olympus
has got you. Yeah. You're good.
But anyway.
Or is it Olympia?
Olympias.
Olympius. Okay.
It's not Olympus. It's not Olympia. It's Olympias.
That's a weird name.
Yeah. She's from like another part of the Greek, like, what is that called? Peninsula. It's this place called Epirus something.
Okay.
Anyway,
cool.
So she's like I don't know, she's like I think she was a princess of that place. You know, royalty.
Royalty. Yeah.
Anyway, so his father became king in 360 BC. Okay, so I guess 4 years before Alexander was born. He he was also like very good, like as a king, not like as a person, but he like advanced the military.
He was a good ruler.
Yeah. He ruled for like 24 years. He really like, there's this thing that they have called the phalanx. It's like a military formation where maybe you've seen it in like movies that cuddle together. They have these like really long spears and it's like one troop and they like move together and it's like really hard to break into the like ranks. Anyway.
Sure.
He like perfected it. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and the cavalry and stuff, like he kind of like just really, he helped Macedonia conquer. He had already like started the conquering, his dad. Okay?
Gotcha.
So he marries Olympias, but the night before she marries him, she has this dream where lightning strikes her womb.
Oh.
Like she's having a dream. So
Whoa.
The night before she marries Philip. And so apparently like later on she tells Alexander about this dream and that it was Zeus who came and visited her. Zeus, the Greek god. And that supposedly Alexander is actually Zeus's son. So he's like a demigod. So he already comes into the world kind of with this like, oh, I'm half god,
this god
half
complex.
man.
Yeah.
His god complex. So obviously. And, like, she's, like, supposedly, she's like, I come from this line of, like, people who fought in the Trojan War, like Achilles. But Achilles is, like, a mythological figure.
Right.
I don't know if he's the one they, like, dip
Achilles
in the water.
heel because they didn't get his heel.
Yeah. So that was, like, his weakness. So, like, apparently, like, her line, like, that's where she's from. You know. So his life is already kind of, like, I have some mythology going on in the background.
All right.
Yeah. But, like, to them, like, that's also their religion. So, like, who's to say
Makes
if your
sense,
mom said you're half god...
You're going to believe her. Yeah.
You're going to believe her. Anyway, so, you know, her status in the household is pretty much depending on, is her son good enough to become the king one day, right?
So did any of his other 3 wives have a son before her?
I don't know. I would assume, but I actually didn't.
And then how did they decide that he was the one who gets to rule?
Well, probably if it was, or either you know, he could simultaneously have the wives. Maybe they were also young, so they're all just sort of like competing, like who's gonna grow up and be the best. I don't think, because I'll tell you a little point for later on, he marries another woman and she's Macedonian, so I don't think he had like the heir that they had considered
the true heir.
Okay, I'll tell you the rest of that story in just a minute. But I wanted to say, like, because there are so many wives in the household, right? And there's so many possibilities of these second heirs, or maybe there is another heir already born.
Yeah.
Like she's kind of like has to have some sort of validity in the household. Like, so she's kind of like making sure she wants Alexander to keep on his trajectory toward that throne.
If you're claiming that your son, who is potentially going to be the heir, is actually not his son and is the son of Zeus, that's not the right way to go about that.
Well, that's true. I didn't think of that either. But it's like also,
it's like, oh, if he's the son of Zeus, then he's not really the heir. So,
but if he's the son of Zeus,
if he's the son of Zeus,
can you question him?
He's powerful, so maybe we should make him the heir.
Right, exactly. But from a young age, like he was a very like successful kid. Okay, so like at 16 he was actually like regent while his father went away, so that means like while he's away,
he was like ruling
instead. And then later on he goes on a campaign with his dad, like a military campaign at like age 18, and like helps him win. So he's already like excelling really well. So he was taught the Greek essentials. So he taught writing, algebra, athletics, and philosophy. So they put them through this schooling first, like all the like Greek classics are the things that you need to learn, as well as military training. Apparently this is like the basic, this is what you do in Greece, like especially in
royalty, at least.
Yeah. Like you learned everything. So even like it was very important that he had a tutor. That tutor was Aristotle. At the time, Aristotle was not as well known. He was actually known as like Plato's student at this time, before he became like his own like philosopher. So Aristotle was Alexander's tutor for like 3 years.
Way to go, Aristotle. You made a horrible person.
Did you mess up? Well, and the funny thing is though, like and Alexander like loved philosophy, and actually some of the things like he carried over in ways that are like surprising for someone who was so like you'll see later on that I'll tell you about.
It's kind of like what we were saying earlier, where it's like the Bible, I can see like this side using it and this side using it, and they can actually use it to justify what they're doing, and like how like cults get started. It's like, well, the Bible does kind of say that, but it's taken out of context.
But that's out of context.
Yeah, but
right.
So I see. I could see how that would happen. Yeah.
So he also has to be a good equestrian. So riding horses.
Right, because you got to be able to ride a horse into battle.
Into battle, yeah. So at age 10, he there's this horse that Philip like received from someone. He was like this really beautiful horse that no one could like manage. This horse was crazy. He was, But
Alexander, he managed that horse, didn't he?
At 10 years old, he's like,
oh wow,
this
at
horse.
10.
Yeah, he was 10. The horse he noticed he was either like 10 to 12. I heard both, like that kind of age.
Ages are weird,
right? Yeah, back then they're like probably happened about this time. But he noticed that the horse was like scared of its own shadow, so he was like, Dad, don't get rid of this horse. Like I can get on.
I can handle it.
So and he did. So they're all like, what the heck? So his dad says to him, like, because he tames the horse, he gets on it. His dad's like, my boy, you must find a kingdom which is your equal. Macedonia is too small for you. Okay, so his dad
was like, this is not, you can't rule here. Places. You gotta go somewhere else because you're too good.
Right. So we already know, like, okay, he's kind of the favored one, I would assume, because his dad's already
like, dude,
like, you can tame this horse.
Yeah.
And so he names the horse it's already named, I don't know, Bucephalus, which means ox head, which I think is so funny.
Interesting.
Bucephalus the horse.
You ox head.
You ox head. I was like, is that because he's like stubborn? Maybe, like, is that like it probably translates different in Greek than it does.
It probably does.
They're like, that's not actually what it translates to. That's what they told me. Okay, so his dad is like, yeah, you're having
going
potential,
places, dude.
Right?
Yeah.
So he went on his also I said he ruled at 16, but he also went on his first military campaign at 16. So he's leading, conquering places.
Wait, at 16 or 18?
At 16. And then later he like wins a battle with his dad at 18.
Oh, at 18. Okay. So that's okay.
So at 16 he goes on his first one, and he kind of restrains the native people there. I think it's somewhere in Bulgaria.
Restrains, as in
or like they're already kind of conquered, but he goes and like puts out like, I don't know, rebellions or like things like that.
Okay. I was like physically
restrains
them down.
No. He physically restrains them all. No, he kind of like settles them down from their
gotcha
whatever is going on.
He conquers them completely.
Conquers them. Yeah. Like I said, I think they were already conquered technically, but there was still like unrest or something like that.
Yeah.
And he founds a city there named Alexandropolis.
Did he find that city there, or did he name it that?
No, he named it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he founded a city and he named it that, which we'll talk about later. Like, he literally names, like, so many places after himself. That's
ridiculous.
What you do. He's like, yeah. And then at age 18, like we were talking about, he aided his father in a win against Athens, which is in Greece.
Yeah.
And Thebes, which I also believe is another... It might be a Greek city-state. I might have that wrong. It might be an island.
I have no idea.
I don't either. But apparently, like, he turned the tide of that battle, like, pretty, like it was him, like, leading people. So he was like,
leading the charge.
Yeah, at 18. So this was like a very decisive, like, helping his dad win this thing.
Yeah.
So obviously he's favored. Like, he's in the line for, like, something good here. But there's always a but.
There is always a but.
But somewhere between... I don't know what age, but it did get shaky between him and his dad. Okay. At some point. Like, he's obviously, like, favored, but at some point...
He was like, you told me I'm too good for this place, so shut your mouth and listen to what I'm saying.
Right. He starts to doubt his dad. Essentially, like, is he really that great? Because now he's getting, I guess, a big head.
Yeah.
But somewhere they kind of get in, like, bad terms, and Philip divorces Olympias. So... He is going to marry...
That's like a no-no, even, like, especially in that time.
Right. I don't know. I guess maybe with the king, he can decide if he wants to divorce the wife.
I guess so, yeah.
And, like, because it isn't, like, even in, like, the Bible, like, when, like, it's, like, Xerxes, like, sends away his wife or something, like, I guess they can decide to, like, get rid of their wives or, like, divorce them.
Well, that's hypocritical.
It seems very hypocritical. I'm sure that she couldn't have divorced him, and I doubt she would want to.
Oh, no, she absolutely could not have. She would be beheaded.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So he decides to marry another woman named Cleopatra, not the Cleopatra of history later on,
the not Cleopatra the Egyptian that we know. One.
Yeah, not that one. Although she's technically tied into, like, never mind. That's what I'll tell you later.
We'll get to that later.
So he decides to marry this woman named Cleopatra in 338, and she's Macedonian. So at the wedding, her dad, Cleopatra's dad. Okay. I think his name was like Atlas or Attalus or something. I don't remember.
Okay, sounds familiar.
Right. Felicia's like, I heard this. He like gives a toast and he says, let us pray that there will be a true Macedonian heir. Now, this don't go over too well with Alexander because, this is where I got confused between the Macedonian thing. He's apparently half Greek, half Macedonian, but Macedonia's in Greece. So I was a little confused how that worked. But they're saying because, I guess, Philip's true Macedonian and now Cleopatra's true Macedonian. So
they'll have a true Macedonian
heir. Although Alexander is Greek and Macedonian. So Alexander gets up and throws his cup apparently at this guy's head and says, what, am I then a bastard? Yeah.
Well, technically speaking, I guess kind of.
Well, but and at the same time, he's not technically because he is the true son of the king and his wife. So it's not like he,
Yeah, but she's no longer his wife.
Oh, true. Yeah. I guess so. Like if he's divorced.
So then technically speaking, he would
technically be.
He would be, wouldn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Ooh, I don't know the technical, I don't know how that works.
Or do they have to not be their wife?
Right, like.
When they're born.
Yeah. That's what I say, she was his wife when he was born, so.
I don't know. I still feel like technically he could have been.
They could have, they could have been like, you're actually not the true son now because she's not. Mm-hmm. They're divorced. So. At this point, Philip gets up and he's super drunk and swings his sword at Alexander at his own wedding, but then he falls over the table just drunk. So yeah, so he's
not a good look.
Not a good look for your wedding.
Safe to say it was not consummated that night.
So let's just say, ooh, awkward. But so Alexander and Olympias decide to self-exile themselves, so they leave for a while because the king just kind of lash out at them, but Philip apparently had no intention of actually turning his back on Alexander.
Okay.
So they come back. He was I don't know exactly what the reconciliation there was. He had
to write them and be like, listen, yeah, I was drunk. I'm sorry.
Right. He was like, whatever. I was just drunk. Which is just I don't know. It's not funny, but it's kind of they just leave he's gonna kill us, and then he's like, man, I was just drunk.
Yeah, right.
What in the world? So,
I'm just unstable. It's okay.
Right. So shaky beginnings, and then they come back and whatever, blah blah blah. I don't know how that worked, but then there's another fateful wedding. Oh. Alexander's sister. I think it's actually his full sister. So I think it's Olympias' daughter.
Oh, okay.
So they all come to her wedding. It's in the. There were 2 capitals, so it confused me, but it's in the capital, whatever. It's a big to do. But as they go in, obviously Alexander's there. It's his sister.
Right.
Philip's there. It's his daughter. So Philip is going into the place and he gets stabbed between the ribs by one of his bodyguards. So assassinated at his daughter's wedding. Dies.
Was Alexander behind this assassination?
Well, that is a proposal. Apparently they don't know why Philip was killed. Unless, it was Alexander. Then there would be a reason for that.
Yeah, because he would be the heir.
Yeah, because he would be the heir. But, for the most part, Philip was, a good king. People liked him. And
he was widely accepted.
Yeah, because he had done all this stuff for Greece, or Macedonia. So there's proposals that it was, a former lover of his, a male lover. It could have been, a revenge thing.
Gotcha.
Just, I'm gonna kill you, which is so weird to wait. I feel well, I guess I don't know when this happened.
Unless it was a former lover who he had promised his daughter's hand to. He was like, hey, I'll give her your hand, and that way you're respectable, and then he marries her off to someone else. That's my theory.
Oh, that's a good theory.
If not Alexander, that is my theory.
If it is not Alexander, and then yes, of course, Olympias and Alexander are obviously they have the most to gain from this.
Well, and do they go through with the wedding?
Oh, I don't know. No one cared about that, apparently.
Okay.
I'm sure. Well,
I'm over here did they complete the wedding or did they reschedule?
I'm sure they rescheduled. Your dad just got killed at your wedding. I feel like they had to reschedule. I don't know.
Not only your dad, but the king.
Yeah. So guess who has to swoop in? Fast? Alexander. So yeah, he takes the opportunity. Now, there were several people who were yeah, this is fine with Alexander. And there's several people who we don't really think that you actually have a claim to the throne because I guess there's other sons and things like that. So I didn't read any details about them because, the articles I read weren't focused on that. But he has to apparently kill off a lot of the other children of his dad's and cousins, all that sort of thing, to get rid of all the competition. I don't know how many he killed, quite a bit. And then he also killed Cleopatra's dad, the guy that had like said the thing about the true Macedonian heir. Gets him.
Wait.
I don't know the details. So.
Did they know at the time that he was killing off all of these people?
Oh, they had to have. But like, what can you do about it?
Be the ruler?
Yeah, like, well, technically, I mean, he has some claim to the throne, but like, I'm not really sure. Like, he like literally was just like, okay, everyone else who has like a claim to the throne, I'm just gonna do away with. And I guess they just are like, okay. And then he takes the throne. I mean, it's kind of like what is that saying? A dog eat dog world at this time.
That's ridiculous. Like that is like it's like I would be terrified at that point if it's like, do? Oh my gosh, this person's killing off all the other heirs so that they can take the throne. I'm getting the heck out of Dodge. I don't want to be under his command.
I want to be there. I'm leaving. So he becomes king when he's 20 years old. He's only 20.
Okay, so this is 2 years after he went like on his like
his
first
battle. His first battle. Yeah, because like the other one, he kind of was already like dealing with conquered peoples. He just kind of like when he was 16. So I feel like it's only like 2 years after his like first big military campaign with his dad. And so I guess it's just like, okay, he's dead, and he had I guess like because I don't know if his dad had officially said, I want this person to be my heir. He probably didn't think he was going that quick.
Right. He still was pretty young.
Right. I don't think I don't even know how old he was, but I don't think it was like that incredibly old. Anyway, so now like we talked about, let's talk about his like military stuff. He was very charismatic. So that probably he had leadership skills and he was brave. So I guess like he's killed people, but like he's also showing that he can conquer, and like I guess that's I don't know what makes a good king in this time period. I guess it's that
I'm not from this time period.
I'm not from this time period. Apparently, like this probably happened all the time, so they're probably used to people doing off with people they didn't want in the way. I don't know all the details of that. If you know, let me know. Which I love Greek history. Like if I could do another like side like degree, I would love to do like a Greek history. Oh yeah, it'd be so cool. But anyway, so he takes the kingdom even further east than his dad had. Okay, his kingdom spanned from Greece, to Egypt to India. So this is really big at this time. I'll show you a little map of this area. Okay. She's like, I do not like these maps. So like this is all the land Alexander ends up conquering. So you have Africa over here, right, and like Egypt. And then this is like where he's from, and then he goes all the way over here to the edge of India. So it's like a lot of Asia.
That is a large span of land.
It is a lot. And like during this time, like in this area, that was kind of like India was considered like, it's not, but like the edge of the like Greek world, like as they saw it. It obviously wasn't. But so he goes really far. Okay. And he like immediately begins. He's like, okay, my dad was planning on doing this. I'm going. So his dad had planned that. He had started. So essentially it's the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire is ruling this area that they want to take over. And they've had beef with Persia for a long time. I think Persia like burned down Athens at one point, which is like a big no-no. So like they want to go conquer where Persia's conquered essentially. So he's deciding to go conquer them. Now, he won like a lot, and even when his troops were smaller, like he would have like smaller amounts of guys and he would just be taking out people. Like he was really good. He was really good at leading his people. Strategery. Yeah, and he also led from the front lines, which was unusual, and I think that's why people followed him, because he was
down there with them. Usually like, the king is like further back. Put him back because you don't want anything to happen to him.
Right. So he's like, nope, I'm leading. We're going. He's 20 years old. He gets hurt like all the time. Like he gets a catapult missile to the shoulder, a cleaver slash to the head, a sword gash in his thigh, and his lung got pierced by an arrow in India, but he survived it. Like, I don't know how.
That is witchcraft. They talked to a witch. That's what they did.
He did talk to this oracle. I don't know the timeline. I think it was before he went on the campaign. An oracle is like a prophet type person. Yeah. In Egypt. So it's like the oracle of Delphi. How do you say that? Delphi. Like a very popular oracle that like in Greek culture, like the heroes would go to and they would have them prophesy about them.
Gotcha.
So he went there and supposedly the oracle also said of him, "You're the son of Zeus." So
okay.
So he has this,
his
like,
mom paid the oracle.
Yeah. Olympias was trying to I don't know what she was doing back home, but she also didn't like the guy he, like, Alexander left in charge, and was trying to be like all like, I want this done. So I don't know a lot about her, but like she obviously had her hand in a
She did.
She
was maybe a little conniving.
She was a little conniving. A Knievel.
Evil
Knievel. Anyway, so he's fighting. He's on the front lines. He gets hurt all the time. Okay. During one Persian battle, he almost died. I think it was one of his first ones. A guy brought his sword down on his helmet, and it like cracked his helmet, and I think he got a concussion. And then, you know how that is.
I'm familiar with those.
So he gets a concussion, and I don't know the immediate effects of a concussion. Like, do you feel like it affects you immediately?
It depends on how bad the concussion is. One, if he's getting struck in the head,
the helmet cracks.
That alone is going to be like a little disorienting. Like that, especially with a sword where it's like, oh my gosh, I almost just died. That's going to be a little disorienting in and of itself. But like my worst concussion, I didn't realize how bad I was until I like went to start driving my car.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, and then I like laid on the floor in Walmart.
Oh,
it was bad. Like I couldn't stand. I was like, I gotta go.
Well, probably with like the adrenaline too. Like he's
at war, so he's not gonna be thinking anything like of it.
Right.
Immediately.
He's like, oh, it hit my head. Ow, that hurt. But then another Persian guy comes down and is about to like kill him with a sword. And this guy, I think it's like one of his generals or one of his commanders. His name is Cletus. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's say Cletus.
Sounds good.
Because Cletus sounds like a cleat. Like the cleat, the shoe. But he like blocks him. So it's like a very like movie moment, like where he's like, the sword's coming down, and he like supposedly saves his life. Okay? Yeah. So this guy, keep him in your mind. He is at another part later. Cletus.
Good old Cletus.
Okay, so
Cletus. Sorry.
Cletus. I don't know. Cletus. One of those.
One of the two.
Anyway, in one battle, like I said, it just like he's crazy. He's outnumbered 2-1, okay, against the Persians, and they have like 40,000 people. The Persians, like it's insane. I'm like, I can't even fathom being in a place with that many people. So whenever I hear there's like 40,000 people in an army.
Also, I feel like I would get confused as to who's on my team and who's not.
Are you Persian? I don't know.
Are you on my side?
Right. Do I poke you with a spear? I would be like, I'm running.
I'd be like, I don't know what to do.
But like in Greek times, like that was not. You were like trained. You were going. You were like, this was like your. I'm sure like if you like abandoned, you were like looked upon as you're not getting into wherever I don't know.
Listen, if you abandon, you could go somewhere else pretty easily, and no one would know.
Right. So he was outnumbered 2-1, and apparently, this is what I heard in a video. So I don't know if it's true, but he lost 100 men as compared to the 6,000 Persians they killed.
Oh wow!
So like he meant business.
He had them taking steroids before they went in. They
like,
were ripped.
Right, they were ripped. So, and this was some of these battles, the Persian battles, were against this guy named Darius III. Perhaps you've heard of him. He is a Persian ruler. I think the capital at the time is Babylon.
Not a clue. Not a clue who this man is.
All right, well, his name's Darius.
Okay,
but
cool.
So he's like really going after this guy for a while. Like there are battles against this man, but it takes him like 6 years to conquer Persia, which is not that like that's pretty fast. 6 years to conquer like a whole like
and it's like all of Persia.
It's like all over the place.
It's not just like oh, he conquered a little sliver.
Right.
It's like
no, he conquered all of it in like 6 years, but he was going a lot of times he would fight, and because Darius, like I don't think he was on the front lines like Alexander was, like he was way back, so he would like get out a lot of the time, like he wasn't killed in battle.
Yeah.
So he was always like, well, I'm going to push Darius further, blah, blah, blah. And one time he captured Darius's family, like his wife, his mother, and like his 2 daughters.
Oh my goodness.
And he took them to Egypt with him for a while. So he was like, he took them and he went back to Egypt. And I think he had them for like 2 years in Egypt.
Oh my
gosh.
He
just like captured them. Like, okay, you're coming with me. But he like apparently like treated them well.
Well, so he's trying to draw him towards him. He doesn't want anything to happen to him. Otherwise,
he doesn't have any.
He's going to get assassinated.
So he also founds Alexandria in Egypt. I don't know if you've heard of this, but Alexandria has like some of the like one of the like wonders of the ancient world in it. It also has like the Library of Alexandria. I don't know if you've heard of that.
Yeah, heard of that.
So that's the city. Like he founds it. It's just kind of like his capital of his like world right now. And like the Egyptians even like name him as Pharaoh at this time. Like he like wow. Yeah, because like they're all for it apparently, like the Egyptians at this time, because they were being ruled, I think maybe by the Persians, probably, since that's what he was conquering. The details get a little fuzzy, so I'm sorry. I'm not fully a historian, so like knowing where people are.
She isn't even a little bit.
I'm not even a little bit of it. I just like it. So yes, like I said, he defeats the Empire. The Empire? What the heck? Sorry, my notes just like freaked out. He takes over Persia in like 6 years. And I thought this was so funny. I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to read it to you because there is some correspondence between Alexander and Darius. And Darius is like, hey, bro, like you attacked me and like I only attacked you because of this, blah, 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 blah. So Darius sends this message to him and Alexander sends this back. Okay. He's like, in future, whenever you communicate with me, send to me as king of Asia. Do not write to me as an equal, but state your demands to the master of all your possessions. If not, I shall deal with you as a wrongdoer. If you wish to lay claim to the title of king, then stand your ground and fight for it. Do not take to flight, as I shall pursue you wherever you may be.
And that's Alexander writing
that?
Yeah,
so he's like, bro, I'm not your equal. You can refer to me as king.
I'm better than you, dude.
You can. So this man,
this is from a king writing to a king.
Yes,
like...
yes, exactly. He's like, no, you keep running.
Yeah.
Don't even, no, address me as king and I'm coming to find you. So yeah, that's kind of funny.
That's such a catty, like,
it's so
teenage boy thing to do, you know, like.
And by the time he had conquered Persia, I think he was only like 25.
Yeah, he was still young. His frontal lobe was not yet developed.
Yeah, it was not. But it's just so funny. Oh, I forgot to mention this. He takes Bucephalus like into every battle with him, his horse.
Okay.
So
the one that was scared of his shadow from earlier.
Right.
Okay,
so,
gotcha.
But Bucephalus died in 326. No. So, but this was a good amount of time. Like he's had him for a long time. But he either died of old age or battle injuries. But apparently, I think this is the only one that he added, like the city he added to. At this place, he named it Alexandria Bucephala. So he named it after his horse and himself.
That's kind of sweet.
Which is kind of sweet. He built it like around the burial site of the horse. So like his horse, like, I know, it's kind of sad. That's actually kind of sad. That's actually kind of sweet. He has some sweet moments among all his bloody wars. But one of my favorite battles, sorry, I know there's a lot of battles, but this one's pretty interesting. So he went, it's called the Siege of Tyre. It was an island located in, I guess, modern day Lebanon, which I think is like in Turkey somewhere.
Okay. Cool.
I think that might be wrong. Lebanon might be its own country. I'm so sorry if I got that wrong. It's hard because like ancient times and like now like they're different countries and stuff. But during this time, it was enclosed by walls. So it was like an island surrounded by walls. And Alexander was trying to conquer it, obviously, as he does. Mm-hmm. But it's on an island. So he decides to literally build a causeway to the island to literally just take his troops across. Like a little bridge.
Yeah. That's desperate.
It is desperate. He's like a madman, okay? And apparently, like he obviously conquers it. He wins, as he does. The causeway remained intact. And eventually, silt settled around it. And it literally created silt, so like the sediment, the rocks, the dirt, surrounded the causeway.
Cool.
So like over time, surrounded the causeway. And it made the island and the mainland connect to this day. So it made a whole isthmus, it's called. Like,
so it like literally formed around it.
It literally formed around it, and it's there to this day. And if you see here, I got you a picture so you could picture it. This was the island. This is what he built. And then that's what built over time. So it literally looks like that today.
So they literally just made land.
He literally
That's crazy.
Connected an island to the mainland that is there till this day.
That's wild.
Isn't that crazy?
Imagine having a house on the edge of the island and then all of a sudden it's not.
Oh, look at that.
It's like, oh, wow, we're on land suddenly. There's no ocean in my backyard. That's annoying.
But obviously, like, that would take, it took
a while.
Yeah,
for that
you
to
probably
happen.
wouldn't be alive. Yeah. But I just thought that was so funny. Like, and it's there till this day. So he like literally made a permanent, like, geographical change.
That's wild.
I didn't know even that could. I mean, I know that he can happen.
He is the son of Zeus, after all.
Right. He is half god. Now one of his, I think it was maybe one of his last battles, at the Battle of Hydaspes.
Sure.
In Pakistan or in India. Parts of, considered the edge of the world. He was almost defeated, but he did not. He fought this guy named King Porus, which I think is funny. And he had like war elephants. So this was like,
I like him.
I know. Can you imagine like having elephants?
I want a war elephant.
I know, but
send it on
so
a rampage.
Sad if they died.
Send it on a rampage.
Or like go. So like in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
So like I think this like they hadn't really encountered this, so it was like a close call.
Yeah.
But they still won. And they're super like obviously far from home. And it's at the edge of India. So to them, like they had reached like the edge of the world.
Yeah.
So his troops started being
so
like,
it's like they conquered really the world.
Yeah. They like conquered the world. Like we conquered the world. We kind of want to go home.
Yeah.
Like we want to go home.
I thought I've lost my brothers in arms and I'm ready to go home.
And I think he was on this campaign for like 11 years.
Oh my gosh.
So they're like, we want to go. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's finally like, okay, fine. Like we'll do it. Like he's not happy, but he's like, okay, fine, we'll go.
He literally conquered the whole world.
Right.
What else?
He was like, no, there's still more out there, but he was like, to them, like they're like, we pretty much conquered like all the known world. Let's just go. Let's go. So it takes them like 2 years to travel back. Okay, so they start traveling back, but I don't think he had conquered Arabia yet, and so he was like, my father was planning to do that, so I still want to do that. So like he still had plans to invade places.
Okay.
Now they stop in Babylon to rest. Okay, so
in Baby Lion.
But first, let's talk a little bit about as he's going back, before he's heading back. Okay, let's talk about his decline as a leader. Because that's kind of important to everything going on.
Okay.
He wanted to merge Greek and Persian cultures. And that's one thing that's interesting about him. Apparently, from Aristotle's teachings, like I was saying, Aristotle taught him about tolerance and like respecting other people. Okay. So wherever Alexander the Great went, like even though he's conquering places, like even in Egypt, like he built monuments to the gods and stuff for them, like Egyptian gods.
Oh, like their gods.
And then in Persia, he began to like wear the Persian purple and white. He wore like a diadem because like the king there wore like a crown.
Well, that's part of the dare I say narcissist in him.
Yeah, that's true.
He wanted these people to respect them. He knew the way to get them to respect him was to respect their culture. So he was like, okay.
And it was like almost to the point where he was like starting to put like Persian culture above Greek culture. So he started doing some things that did not make his troops so happy. Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously he did not impose the Greek culture on the Persians. And that was something that was different about him. He would introduce them like to the Greek culture, but he wouldn't be like, you have to be Greek.
Yeah.
He would instead take on their
culture.
So he also had them like to address him like as king. He apparently began making his troops like bow down like on the ground, like completely like, face down and like kiss his hand and things like that. And apparently, which is like a Persian tradition, but like in Greek culture, apparently you only reserve like kissing of like the hands and stuff to like gods.
Well, so, he's half god.
Yeah, so to him, he's half god, but like they think that is like offensive. So they're like, we don't like this. And apparently he also did things like his advisors he began to replace with like Persian advisors and things like that. Like, so he's making he's not looking too good in his troops' eyes. Okay. So now sometime in this period, which is kind of crazy to me, because it's in 327. So he's, when was he born? I'm trying to think, 356. I think he's like, how old would he be? I'm bad at math.
I don't know. Like, and the numbers are backwards 30. Too.
I know the numbers are backwards. So I'm like, so he's like maybe 29, 30. I don't know. I did the math wrong. But he finally marries this woman, Roxana.
Oh, so he hasn't married anyone yet. No, which is he's been in battle.
He's been in battle for straight 11 years. So he marries a Persian woman.
So his people have not gotten an heir from him.
No.
For 11 years.
No. And he has like a regent rolling back home. So who knows what's going on.
Well, and he's marching into battle.
Right. Without an heir.
In the front lines with no heir. That's bold.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he was very like immersed in his in conquering. Like he had to marry, which is weird because like usually they marry pretty fast. You think even at the age of 20 they would have been like, okay, let's get you a Greek woman. Here you go. Let's go. You know what I mean?
Make a baby.
But like he immediately went to war. So like he marries this woman in Roxana, and I don't know. They're like, oh, it was because they were actually in love, and they're like, well, we don't know if it was actually in love or if it was just for power and alliance. I was like, it was totally for power. It was
100% power and alliance.
Not, yeah. So because it's a Persian woman, so that's another thing that his troops don't like. And I read somewhere that he also had 2 other Persian wives, but it never mentioned them again. And so like I'm not really sure if he like married several or
probably.
Yeah, and he wanted his like generals, his commanders, like 70 of them or like 90 some. Like, what was it? Like 91 of them?
Was it 70 or is it 90?
Okay, so I lost it in my notes.
That's okay.
That's okay. So I did not write the number down. He wanted them to take Persian wives.
Probably to, again, like merge cultures and
So he was not all about this like, oh, a true Macedonian heir. Probably because technically he wasn't. And he had already been, he was probably so bitter about that whole comment about a true Macedonian
you're not a
heir.
true Macedonian heir.
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me why I'm the king of Macedonia.
Right, and literally conquering all these lands. So he apparently, because of this, there was like a revolt that tried to happen among his troops, obviously, and then
because of all the Persian stuff. Okay,
yes, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And immediately, there's like 13 of the instigators. He finds out, he puts them to death immediately.
Oh gosh.
So like anyone who comes against him, he is not scared to put down.
He's like, I'll just kill you.
Yeah. Like, you remember Clitus we had talked about?
Yeah.
So one night they're having a party, and apparently this was happening a lot. A party, super drunk. There was a lot of alcohol going around during this time. And apparently Alexander was drunk, and he began to like talk so like big about himself. Oh. And he was like, I'm better than all the conquerors that ruled before me, blah, blah, blah. Like even my dad. And apparently like Clitus had like fought with his dad, and he was like, that's like super disrespectful. Like your dad was like an amazing conqueror. You wouldn't be able to be doing what you're doing.
But he had his dad killed, so
we don't know though, Felina. I mean, it makes the most sense.
It does.
But so apparently they get in this really heated argument, and
he kills him.
Yeah, Alexander's drunk, and he literally picks up a spear and like throws it into his chest, and it like kills him.
Oh my gosh.
But then Alexander like immediately regrets it. That's the thing, is like he's so rash. And then like apparently he was like almost thinking about like he almost like killed himself with the same spear. Apparently, like he was so upset that he did it.
I doubt that, but
anyway, so the same guy who saved him in his like one of his first battles, he just like
just kills him for questioning him.
Yes. So also leading up to this time when they're going back to Babylon, his best friend and possible lover, at some point, I can never say his name. Hephaestion. I don't know. He contracted Hephaestion.
Happy crustacean.
His best friend dies. Okay. He gets sick and he dies. And Alexander was so devastated that he had Hephaestion's doctor, the one that was taking care of him, killed. So if you're someone's doctor and you mess up, then you're dead.
You're going to lose all of your royal doctors if you're going to do that.
Yeah, you best not do that.
Yeah.
And then he has like a temple burned down that was like apparently like the Greek god of healing. Like he was so angry about this. So like
because the Greek god didn't heal him.
Heal his best friend. So all of this, I know that one seemed kind of random, but like all this is kind of leading to his like outbursts and his like distrust of like his troops and his men, and he's really on the decline. Okay.
He is not on the up and up anymore.
No. So
people are not loving him. They don't think he's fantastic.
So they're in Babylon as they are heading back home. And apparently they're having another party. Apparently he went on lots of drinking binges during this time, which I mean,
if you think about it, he's been at war for 11 years. And so he's like, he's a little happy. He's like, oh my gosh, we're done for now.
Right.
We're still going to keep going, but we're done for now. I can let loose.
Right. And like, let's just party. And also probably, if you see that much killing, you're probably just going to be drinking.
You're going to be drinking to forget. Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently one night they're drinking a lot of the alcohols, and
not the alcohols.
They're drinking a lot of the alcohols, and he feels a pain in his chest / back, so he decides to go to bed. Now he woke up and he's like feverish and he's in pain, but he parties the next night again. He decides to drink again. Slowly he contracts something. They don't know. They're not quite sure what happened. Okay. He contracts some sort of illness, and he is in bed for, I don't know, like 12 days.
Oh my gosh.
Something like that. He's in a lot of pain. And he begins to get to the point where he can't talk. He is starting to experience paralysis.
Been poisoned.
We don't know. We actually don't know what happened, but because he's having abdominal pain, he's having fever, and he begins not to be able to speak, but he's like mentally still there. Like he can recognize his guys' faces.
So he knows everything that's happening. Yeah. He just can't communicate.
He can't communicate.
Okay.
Now
get him a pegboard.
Get him something to write. So there have been like lots of like, he died. He's gonna die.
Right.
Spoiler alert.
What? He's not alive?
He's not alive. So he's gonna die. people have proposed malaria, typhoid, alcohol poisoning. Which I don't know what alcohol poisoning looks like, but like he had been drinking a lot. It could have been,
yeah. After I'm sure he wasn't. I'm sure he drank, but not to the extent that he was.
Yeah.
You know, like
after them. Like,
after,
yeah. I'm sure not. Like, are you drinking before you go into battle? Like, I would imagine not.
I doubt that.
But some people think he could have died of old wounds or assassination, obviously. There are people who are put forth as possibilities for Alexander's assassination, but they don't really make sense. Mm-hmm. Apparently the guy who was like ruling back in Alexander's stead, like the regent there, Alexander had wanted him to come there because like come to him. I think his name was like, I don't know how to say his name. Antipater, like an anteater. He like summoned him to himself because apparently his mom was like unhappy with him ruling. So he's like, okay, I need you to come join me
in battle.
I don't know if he was trying to like get rid of him,
right?
But apparently the guy was like scared of Alexander, so he sent his son in his stead, Cassander. So it's
that's rude.
I know. Right? It's like, no, you go for me in my stead. But apparently that he is like put forth as like possibly he killed him because his dad like put him up to the task because he was scared for his life.
Okay, gotcha.
Or this one's really like left field out of nowhere because like it's been like a really long time, but people have proposed Aristotle as his assassinator, which doesn't make sense because apparently Alexander had killed someone that was like, I don't know if it was like a philosopher that would have been friends with Aristotle. And it's like, this doesn't really make sense though, because like Aristotle wasn't even like, he had been like tutoring him when he was like 13 to 16.
Yeah, he wasn't even like, his tutor anymore. Yeah, like, he hadn't been his tutor for a long time.
And how would Aristotle have like come to Babylon and like, because I don't think Aristotle like
he would have hired someone to do it. Yeah.
So there have been like theories put forth about him being poisoned, but they don't really have any like clear like proof of who would have done it.
Yeah.
But one weird
his soldiers, any of his soldiers could have done it though.
Them, like they were unhappy with the whole.
Ticked off at him for making him like kiss his hand and basically telling them to marry like Persian people.
What if it was one of his Persian wives or something too? Like the Persian people there, like they were like, you know what? Like I know we're acting like we're integrating with you guys, but actually, you don't know. It
it's our Trojan horse.
Right.
Yeah,
it could have been anyone. But one thing that was weird about his death, which is why there's been so many proposals about what actually happened to him. Supposedly, when they thought he had died, his body didn't decompose for 6 days. Now. Which is like, you know, it's like, well, it's because he was a god. No, obviously not. But it is proposed that doctors at the time used breathing as a sign of death, you know, not the pulse.
Oh, so he wasn't actually dead.
Yeah, so people think
he was just in like
like
in
a state, in a coma.
Yeah.
So they were like, oh my goodness, he didn't start decomposing until 6 days later. So like, you know, he was a god, all this stuff. But apparently there's this thing called, I'm gonna say it so wrong.
Let me see it.
Guillain-Barré syndrome. Do you know that? Do you know what that is? It's like a French word. They call it GBS. So we're going to call it GBS.
It looks like
Bouillon, right?
Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Yeah.
Guillain-Barré syndrome.
You got it.
Yeah.
That. It has been proposed maybe he had this, which was a neurological disorder that it's also an autoimmune thing that attacks the immune system. Like the immune system like turns against the healthy cells in your body.
Yeah.
And apparently this would be an explanation for the paralysis. As if your body started shutting down, you don't need as much oxygen to breathe. So
you're not taking deep breaths anymore. It doesn't look you're like breathing. Barely breathing.
Yeah. So
it's like how people tell you to breathe. It's like shallow breaths.
Right.
Like how people tell you to breathe if you're like pretending to be dead or like whatever.
Right.
It's acting.
It's acting. And that's the thing is they don't know. I guess they didn't know. I don't know why they didn't know about the pulse. Like they're just like, oh, he's not breathing. He's dead.
Well, it's, you know, the BC of it all.
the BC of it all. So it is proposed, you know, that he wasn't really actually dead. He had a false diagnosis of death, which apparently has a name like pseudo-thanatos, which is kind of cool.
Pseudo-thanatos?
Pseudo-thanatos is a false diagnosis of death.
That makes me think of Thanos.
I know. That's what I was thinking. And it's proposed that he could have been actually not dead and he was killed during embalming, which would have really sucked. Can you imagine? Maybe that was their plot all along, like to like kill him regardless.
Oh, so that's also proposed. Gosh.
Can you imagine? Eek. If he wasn't actually dead and like he didn't show signs of decomposing until his like burial But I don't know. Isn't that weird?
So they falsely pronounced him dead, then they embalmed him, and that's what killed him?
Maybe. That's a proposal. We don't know. Like, it could have been several things. It was,
oh my gosh.
And it's even been proposed, like, you know how he had the arrow wound to the lung? Like, it's saying if you got malaria with this kind of weakness, like, that could kill you too.
Oh, yeah, that's true. But
the thing that gets me is, like, think about how many times he almost got killed in battle. And then he dies of some sickness that they're not even quite sure what it is.
Yeah.
Unless it was poisoning or embalming that killed him.
I like the theory that it was embalming.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that would be like... But here's the thing about him. He dies in 323 BC at the age of 32. He's only 32.
Oh, wow.
After conquering, like, the whole world.
Wait, and he hasn't produced an heir
He
yet?
has not produced an heir. Apparently in his dying breath, like, I don't know if it was his dying breath. It couldn't have been, must have been the last thing he said because he couldn't speak for a while.
Yeah.
They were asking him, hey, dude, like, who are you leaving your kingdom to? Who are you leaving your kingdom to?
Yeah.
He says, to the strongest. So he pretty much says, whoever can freaking do what I did, apparently, like, you know, whoever can take over this.
Here's also, sorry, side note. Here's another thing is any of the people that he killed in order to make sure that he took the throne.
Yeah.
Their loved ones very well could have poisoned him.
Exactly. Like
any one of those people could. He's got a lot of enemies at this point.
I mean, how many children could that guy have had with 7 wives? Like,
seriously, like 20,
30 kids.
Any one of those people,
right,
could be coming for him.
Apparently, though, his wife Roxana did have a son, but it wasn't until after he died. So I don't even know if he knew if she was pregnant. I don't know. It was after he had already passed away, and then his son only lived until 13 or 14 because he was poisoned. I guess as a teenager.
They said we can't do another one of these.
Yeah, we can't do another. We can't do Alexander's. So that which was crazy to me is like this man who has conquered the whole world has no heir.
Yeah,
like that
because he was focused on conquering the world.
Yeah,
I'm sure he has like illegitimate children somewhere.
I'm sure there was something that they don't know about.
Okay, but
like,
so was his wife's son technically appointed heir for a little bit?
Well,
who came into power after him? Who did it?
So essentially, they split up his territory into 3 sections, and 3 of his generals took over each of those areas, and there was like lots of wars and battles, obviously, to like conquer them.
That's so annoying.
And one of them is in Egypt, which produced the Ptolemaic dynasty, which is where Cleopatra is part of that dynasty. So I think that's kind of funny. Cleopatra, like in Egypt. So his generals like ruled the different areas.
That's annoying.
I don't remember who comes to power after him, to be honest with you, though. That's the thing is like it literally just like split up.
Okay, but who rules Macedonia then?
Right.
Like,
so I don't know.
That's
like,
weird.
That's what's so crazy is like I think it kind of led them into a new era called the Hellenistic world. Mm-hmm. So, which is essentially like he spread so far and wide, which I don't know if you've heard about this, but like he spread the Greek language so far that it became like a very common like trade language, like for trading.
Yeah.
And like if you know, like during Jesus's time, that was the Greek common tongue was like in all that area.
Okay.
Because of Alexander the Great. And that was like 300 years before. So like his death sparked that age of the Hellenistic world or culture. Now he founded 70 cities, all named after him.
That's
except with his horse.
So confusing though.
They're all Alexandria. They had like different names, like you heard, but like he like it was always himself, and then the one with himself and his horse. And then
that's wild.
But get this, in all of his 15 years as a military leader, he did not lose one battle. Never lost.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah. I just had some other facts, but I feel like we've been going for a really long time. But essentially, I don't have the answer. I forget who takes over after this. I'm assuming it becomes sort of like a bi-region rule because it was. So whoever like had the region that was like split, I think, did I have a map? No, okay. Because there was like a map that showed like the areas that his generals took over.
Gotcha.
I'm like, wait, okay, what does this lead into? Because with me, like the time periods get a little confusing in Greek culture, but.
Well, because again, the numbers are backwards.
Yeah, literally. I'm like, okay, what comes next?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously this is like the philosopher ages. So like, I feel like there was another Greek ruler. Maybe we should just Google who. But I know his generals ruled for a while. Okay, so it does say it's his. Oh, 4 generals. Excuse me. Antagonist,
Come
Cassander,
on, get it right, Hannah.
Ptolemy, and Seleucus. Oh, I forgot about Seleucus.
Seleucus.
Who was next after like the Ptolemaic kingdom? So yeah, they all just broke into kingdoms, I guess.
Wow, that's weird.
Yeah.
So bizarre.
So he fought for all that just to not have an heir.
To not have an heir and then have it all split up again.
Yeah, literally. That's what I was thinking. Like,
that's
ruled
ridiculous.
All the world and then it just got split up again.
That is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Well.
So in a way, like they say, like obviously he has like lasting impacts, like military wise, like people like still like base off some of his tactics.
He literally created land.
He literally created land. He spread the Greek language so it became like the common. And he brought about the Hellenistic period, which I'm sure we could do a whole episode podcast on that. So sorry that was a lot of history, but
that was a lot of history, but it wasn't like
he's an interesting guy.
It wasn't the boring aspects of it. And then he went in a battle with this person.
There was a murder and gore. I know. I kept reading about these battles, and I was like, I'm not gonna say any of this to Felina. She's just gonna fall
You'll
asleep.
lose me.
I said war elephants and creating land. Those are the interesting ones.
Those are those ones. Yes.
So that's Alexander the Great. Not the same guy as Alexander Hamilton.
No, not even close.
Who we could totally do an episode on.
We could absolutely.
I'm also fascinated with Alexander Hamilton history before I knew about the
musical.
Yeah. But
wow, that's
so
wild.
there you go.
Well, if you guys,
there will be a quiz following. No.
we'll make a poll for you. If you guys have any other facts about Alexander the Great, or have any other history topics you would like for us to do a podcast episode on, or just want to say hey and chat with us, you can reach us at lattespodcast@gmail.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Lattes on My Mind.
And don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, and what else?
Audible and Spotify.
That's why this is our main platform, so we always forget. All right. When you go conquer the world, don't kill your friends.
And don't forget to produce an heir.
The lesson of today.
And maybe get you some elephants.
So that your whole work just doesn't fall apart again.
Exactly.